as a whole, we try and collaborate and get all of our resources. So more than just education, but we will take resources from outside therapies, from places that self-advocates can get jobs. It's just such a broad spectrum that we try and navigate so that when parents do come to us, we have options as far as a direction to point them in and places that they can go to get more help.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Therapy Unmasked. This is a podcast for parents with kids who need help reaching their milestones and their goals. And today we have a really special guest on our episode today. Her name is Emily Hill. She's with the Davis School District Utah Parent Center, and she is the Davis School District Parent Consultant. So I'm just going to turn the time over to her to kind of explain what her role is and what she does for the Parent Center.
Welcome, Emily.
Thank you. Happy to be here. I, like Tyler mentioned, I work for Utah Parent Center and I serve families within Davis School District. I help parents that have any kids that have IEPs, 504s, or in the special education system in Davis School District. And so if they have questions or problems within their specific school, or they just need help navigating the special education system, then I can be the resource for them. At any point, if a parent does have any questions, even broader than the school system, they can come to me and we will find a resource for them. And so I just help any family that has a kiddo that has a disability.
You're like the tour guide for all things like special education and parenting.
Yes. I don't know if it's a tour that everyone's excited to be on, but we try and make it a little bit easier to navigate.
Well, what a great resource for all of our kids that we have come to our clinic, but also just people in general, especially in this area, to find out what kind of resources are out there. So tell us a little bit more about I'm sure you get the parents that come in deer in the headlights. They're like, I don't know what I need to know. I don't know what I even need. So where do you start with them?
So a lot of the times, having a child get a new diagnosis can be really intimidating
Really
and scary. Yeah. And so sometimes when they come to me, they just need a listening ear. It's a lot of, let me tell you what's been going on in my life. And then after hearing what they need and maybe letting them let all of those emotions out, we can navigate their first steps in addressing this special education system, whether that's requesting an evaluation so their child can get a 504 or an IEP within the school, or if it's communicating with the team and the teacher on the needs that they haven't felt have been met with their child and how to get their child in the most appropriate place.
When they come in and they get to tell their story, I'm sure that they really feel like you guys are great advocates and just not just a listening ear, but you also have a lot of ways to take them by the hand and lead them through, right? So that's got to be comforting.
Yeah. And so that's actually one of the coolest parts of Utah Parent Center, in my opinion. So every person at Utah Parent Center that holds a parent consultant position like I'm in, one of the qualifications of the job is to have a child that has a disability. And so I think there's a level of
perspective. Yeah.
And there's a level of empathy that I don't think you can necessarily get always with your school team, I'm not speaking poorly about the school in any way, but sometimes having someone who's been there and has walked in the same place that you have is really comforting.
Yeah, that's really cool. So tell us a little bit about your kiddo.
So I have a 2.5-year-old. He doesn't actually have a diagnosis at this point. It's what he's been labeled as is a genetic disorder, not otherwise specified. And so my little guy, he is pretty severely developmentally delayed. So he can't sit up, he's not talking, and we're also pretty sure he has autism. But he is light of my life. He just makes me happier than anyone has ever made me. And I think the challenges that he brings are his own special set of challenges, just like any other child has. But it's given me a new perspective into appreciating these little milestones that he hits. It makes me so much more excited about, oh, you know what? He just fed himself a snack. To some people, that might be small.
Typical everyday thing. But for him,
it's
that's
a big
milestone.
deal.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think it's really helped me appreciate more of those little things that he can do. And it's so fun to celebrate that with him.
So speaking of like those hitting the milestones and celebrating the success, do you have like any stories of kids that you've worked with or kids that you've helped or parents maybe that you've helped that you would feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, so just recently so another thing that I get to do is I can help parents at IEP meetings if they need that extra support. And so I went to an IEP meeting with a family recently, and their little was going into preschool, which can be a pretty big transition for everyone. And I think mom was nervous because she's letting go of this control a little bit and just trusting the school team. And so I think there was a lot of stress for her because her little guy didn't have a lot of social interaction besides with mom. And so she was super nervous. And so we went to this IEP meeting and hearing about mom's fears and the team listening to her and just, the social experience is going to be so awesome. And I got to follow up with this mom after this little boy had been in preschool for 2 weeks. And she's like, he's already thriving. His social skills are already like excelling more than we'd ever anticipated. He is talking more. I guess his development as far as communicating nonverbally. So even just looking people in the eyes and giving them those nonverbal cues has just skyrocketed in 2 weeks. And so I think it really quieted her fears and allowed her to trust the process a little bit.
And trust the people that she was there with. Because you don't know what you're stepping into really, but yeah.
That is interesting because one of the core values that we have here at Ability Innovations is we focus on ability. So we don't like to look at these kids that we see as being broken or they need to be fixed. We like them to embrace who they are. And we go off of a superhero theme. I don't know if you got that vibe from these cool buildings that we have here, but we go off this superhero theme because we really do believe disabilities that kids suffer with or struggle with are actually their superpowers. And that as they focus on what they can do, and as they focus on reaching milestones and reaching goals that they have, that they can become the best version of themselves as possible. With like the Utah Parent Center, for example, is there like a scenario where you see like that growth and development occur? And do you feel like it's necessary for parents to have like both outside therapy as well as therapy from the school? Or does it just depend on like the scenario of the kid? What do you think?
I love that. Also, one of my mantras with my little guy is disability is not a tragedy, because I think that can often be perceived that way.
That's a powerful statement. Yeah.
As far as therapy, I think it is so individual, family to family. My personal experience is we have had a lot of success so we do early intervention, which is through the school district, and we do our own private therapy. And we have found great success with both because that works for my family. I've seen a lot of success with my colleagues as well doing similar things. For us, that's something that fits within our schedule, within our parameters, and so it works beautifully. There are situations where, school therapy is going to be the only option, but I think the power is that it's an option within the school, is that they are providing occupational and physical therapy. And so I think not setting limitations on these kids, kind of like you mentioned, and providing multiple ways for them to thrive in multiple settings is just what I love to see.
I worked in Davis School District for a few years, and I loved being able to see like that there are so many resources like therapy. Like they have therapy professionals that go into the classrooms from Head Start to early intervention to the preschool classes all the way up. And it just when you can get a kid into those kinds of services so early on, it just sets them up for so much more in their life. Because we often worked with kids that never had that advantage. Maybe they came from different states or things like that, or they just didn't know and they didn't have access to any of those kinds of resources before. And so they were coming into the game a little late. Now these things were maybe more set in stone, or they were bigger issues where if we would have worked on them early, we could have addressed a lot of those issues when they were smaller before they became more fixed or bigger. And so that's kind of a great thing that like the Utah Parent Center can do is help those parents, especially when they're first coming in, so that we can start addressing things right away, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the cool things that we try and do at Utah Parent Center is, so I mean, there's my part of it that focuses on education, but we also have a couple other departments that focus on medical benefits and that side of things. But as a whole, we try and collaborate and get all of our resources. So more than just education, but we will take resources from outside therapies, from places that self-advocates can get jobs. It's just such a broad spectrum that we try and navigate so that when parents do come to us, we have options as far as a direction to point them in and places that they can go to get more help.
Or they're even like, I'd love to get my kid into a swimming class that's good with kids with disabilities. And you guys have all that too, right?
Yep. And if we don't have something, like if I don't have something just off the top of my head, I can go out to my colleagues, but we are going to try so hard to get you an answer. We try and be as really involved in the community that we're in. So I try and be on several different committees within Davis County so that I can have access to, I don't have that answer, but I know someone who does.
Right. And that's awesome. I just think that is so cool to just give the parents options, right? Because I feel like when you're a parent and you have a kid in this situation, it's stressful and it's hard. And sometimes you just feel so alone. I think like having those communities like the Utah Parent Center to have your back and show you like here are these resources. Like if you want play-based therapy, you can come to Ability Innovations, or if you need more support in the schools, here are the programs that we offer and stuff. So I think that's so awesome. Is that kind of why you got into doing what you're doing, is because you just feel like parents need that support and I can give that to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when my little guy was about 4 months old when we found out that there was something going on. And the thing with my little boy is you wouldn't see him and think that he's got a disability. He looks normal, for lack of a better word. And so when we found out stuff was going on, I mean, it's hard no matter what, but for us, it felt very blindsiding. And it can be extremely isolating and you feel alone in a lot of regards. And so I remember I found out about an event that Utah Parent Center was doing. It was a baseball game where they filmed the Sandlot in Ogden. And my husband loves baseball. And so I'm like, let's go. I kind of had stuck to myself. I think I'd kind of isolated myself from everyone because, pity party. I wanted to feel a little bad for myself. And so we went to this event and just seeing the optimism that these families had and that these children and self-advocates that had these disabilities, they weren't letting it stop them. And I think for me, I'm like, okay, I know I have this community now. And I was lucky because I found out about it so early on. I think when we went to this event and found out about Utah Parent Center, my little guy was probably a year old. And so I was lucky because I found out about it so early on, but not everyone's that fortunate. And so when I found out this position opened, I knew I wanted to help people find out about Utah Parent Center and other resources within the community because there's so many more than I was aware of. And even finding out about Ability Innovations and what you guys offer, it's so fascinating to see that there are so many options that we have in our community, but unless you're within that network, you don't really know about it.
Always hear about it, yeah. I love it that you can like pay it forward too. You're like, this helped me so much, kind of come out of my shell a little bit, and I want that for other parents. And so it's just natural to be like, I'm going to join this movement and help other parents. And is there more opportunity for that for parents? Like once they find out about the Utah Parent Center, they're like, how do I get involved with this? Because it's such a great program.
Yeah, so we offer, we have a coalition called Utah Family Voices. So it's support groups. It's also focusing on like the medical side of things. They've got a Facebook page for each county and district, and there are going to be a lot of volunteer opportunities through that. If someone doesn't want to volunteer, but they just want to come be part of it, we do events pretty often that can bring people together, or we can set up like support groups or support nights. We want to create that community. And so we're going to provide as many opportunities as we can.
Thank you for joining us today. There is one kind of last question we like to ask everyone that comes in here. So because we are superhero themed, we want to know, what do you think your superpower is? As working with the Utah Parent Center, as well as like being a mom and having a kid that's actually in this situation.
That is a really good question. I think I don't know, would this be considered? I think I can cheer for the underdog. I think that is a superhero power of mine, is I can really find the best in maybe the person who you don't anticipate winning. And I want to side with them almost to a fault. And so I think having been given the opportunity of having a little boy with disabilities, it's really allowed me to stretch that even more of, you know what, we're gonna win. This is what we're gonna do. So I would say that's mine.
If you have anything that you would like parents to know, feel free to say what you would want them to know. And also, how can parents find you or find these resources? Where can they go to?
It's a great question. So how you can reach me is you can search Utah Parent Center online, and it will connect you to our main page, and then our main office will get you in connection with me. Or if I'm not the right person, they'll put you in contact with someone that can help you. You can also go to Davis School District's site and search for Emily Hill, and you can find my information there. As far as what I would tell parents for advice that I have learned is just be patient with yourself and be here, be present, because sometimes looking at the big picture can be a little intimidating. And so take it one step at a time. No matter what your situation is. I think that's something we can all learn, is just be present.
I love that. Be present, take it one step at a time. We'll make sure to include all of this in the show notes for people so that they can find any relevant information on you as well as the Utah Parent Center. Because the reason we do this podcast is we want this to be a free resource for parents, so that they don't feel alone, so that they know that there are programs and resources out there to help them through their child's therapy journey and reaching these milestones. Because at the end of the day, that's the goal for our clinic. And I'm assuming that's the goal for the Parent Center, is to help these kids reach their milestones and become the best version of themselves as possible. So again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We really
Great
appreciate it. We'll go ahead and wrap up today. This has been Therapy Unmasked, brought to you by Ability Innovations. Feel free to go to our website, abilityinnovations.com. We have lots of free blogs, articles, other podcast episodes, downloadable resources, all to help you help your child become the best version of themselves. Again, special thanks to Emily for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.